Hello, my name is Mike Samar, and I am host of the Mind Wellness Guru podcast. If you were with me the last time we interviewed TJ with TNT Plant Services, and our topic of discussion was related to social reintegration and how people can, sort of feel safe as they go back out into the retail setting. And we also give you some tips on things you can do to clean your home in a safe manner. So I hope you got a lot out of that. That kind of launched into our new interview series. And so today I am very excited. I have a wonderful person here. Her name is Nina Keeler, and she is a psychotherapist. So I believe by trade you are a licensed marriage and family therapist, and you have a specialization in trauma, and you work out of West Bloomfield. Is that correct?
Yeah, I currently work out of West Bloomfield, but I'm actually going fully telemental health. I was planning on going that way before COVID, and so COVID kind of kicked it into full gear because my husband's military, so we are about to PCS.
What brought you into the field of psychotherapy and wanting to help people?
I started out actually wanting to be an art teacher and went to school to be an art teacher, left home after I graduated from high school thinking, okay, I'm going to be an art teacher. Kind of got into that. It was like, this is not really working for me. But I had an experience in my own childhood with a therapist that was really impactful to me. And so that was kind of what I was like, well, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want to help families. And so I kind of led in that direction, and it just kind of kept unfolding into today, where I am today. And it'll probably continue to unfold.
Yeah, how did you end up going down the path to kind of specialize more in trauma? What led you down that path?
Definitely my own experience, which most trauma therapists have had their own experience with trauma. So my mom passed away when I was 7. And so, just growing up and having that life trajectory change and seeing the impact of that and experiencing the impact of that, not only for myself, but also for my family, really allowed me to understand that things can happen in people's lives. Really hard things can happen in people's lives that will change the course of their life. And if they don't have the support, it can go lopsided.
Yeah. And how do you think your own personal experience has made you a better therapist?
I don't necessarily know that my trauma per se has made me a better therapist, but my desire to heal from trauma has definitely made me a better therapist. And so I think it's more about my healing and my willingness to do the work to heal, which has allowed me to be able to hold space for my own clients, because what I don't deal with within myself will be blind spots for me and my clients. And so I think it's been just my willingness to continue to do the work as it unfolds in my own life has really allowed me to be a better therapist.
Yeah, I like how you are very open and transparent with that. I have had my own personal struggles with, early childhood trauma as well as addiction later on, and it was therapy, frankly, that helped transform my life. And so I know how, really having a good connection with a strong therapist can really be transforming. And so I commend you for just being transparent about that. I think it really can help a lot of people. Now, what types of concerns are you seeing in your practice now?
I think right now what I'm seeing is a lot of clients prior to COVID-19 and the pandemic were kind of wrapping up their sessions with me and wrapping up their work. And then this kind of unfolded and it set off a whole shockwave of new kinds of things that we had to deal with.
Sure.
So the clients that I'm working with that were kind of ending their work and kind of moving forward are now kind of at a standstill and still processing this new experience. It has maybe triggered some old stuff in a different way. So we're processing it at this level in a different way. Or it has brought up stuff that we didn't know was there, that was maybe kind of lying dormant. So we're just kind of at a place where I am finding that I'm not finishing up with clients as fast as I normally would, or clients are not moving through their process of healing as fast as they normally would, because I think this pandemic thing continues to be unsettled. It's up and down. And so that creates a little bit of a response in people. And the first thing that we do as creatures is we orient to the threat. And because COVID is not something we can see or feel or touch, it's hard to orient to it. And so you have to continually work to feel safe. And so I think that's a big thing of people, like you were talking about the prior podcast that you did, where people were working to feel safe and really trying to orient themselves to a sense of safety that makes sense for them. And so that's what I've been working with clients on, is like, what's going to help you feel safe within the bounds of what's normal, or quote unquote normal, to help you feel safe, but orienting to safety and finding ways to feel safe in this new normal is kind of like the number one thing, because our systems, our nervous systems, need to orient to safety.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things I tell people is to obviously try to maintain some semblance of a routine and some structure. Get up in the morning, get dressed like you normally would if you were going to work, even if you're working from home. Put some, dress clothes on or work clothes on, and try to, put together a routine to the best of your ability, so that you have these things in place and you are trying to keep some form of a routine. What are things that you have told people that might make them feel more safe?
I think it depends on how their system is set up. So, there's people who kind of live in the fight and flight, kind of that high sympathetic nervous system charge. And then there are people who live more in that high parasympathetic nervous system charge, which is more of the depression presentation. And then in the middle is where we want to be. It's where we have a little bit of sympathetic and a little bit of parasympathetic. We know how to get up and do what we got to do, but we also know how to rest. So for my sympathetic nervous system people, we're working on things that are going to bring them down. So things that are going to help them to relax and kind of come back into their bodies. And for my parasympathetic people, we're going to work on things that are going to bring them up and give them energy and give them connection to their life energy. So movement and things like that.
It seems like you're very, your approach is very somatic focused. Tell us more about that.
So I am trained in somatic experiencing. I'm what they call an SCP, or somatic experiencing practitioner. And so that is an approach that's based in the nervous system and helping people to kind of get unstuck. And kind of that animalistic kind of viewpoint of we all have a fight, flight, and freeze. And trauma has kind of caused us to get stuck in one of those states and moving us more to an unstuck state or more regulated state. And so that's kind of the premise that I work from in all of my work.
Yeah. I want to talk about some larger societal and systemic type of issues as it relates to COVID and to just mental health in general and access to good mental health care. Can you talk about some of the disparities within the African American community, just in terms of, how they have been affected by COVID or by this trauma?
Yeah, I think COVID has really raised the light, I guess, or shine the light on the health disparities in the African American population. I think it's something that has been going on forever, but this is just one way of raising it to the surface. And so I think, not only, I think for me, bringing trauma into it, not only I think do we have health disparities, but we also have this kind of transgenerational or historical trauma that we're dealing with based on slavery. And so that has also been raised to the surface. It's interesting, both of those things are being raised to the surface. And so my thought is that, because of the health disparities, because of the transgenerational trauma and what we know from the ACEs study about what chronic stress does to the body, and what we're learning from epigenetics from the Holocaust survivors, and that this thing passed through genetics. And so I think we're just seeing the effects of historical trauma on the African American population and how we're not able to weather these things that are coming through, these viruses and things like that. And then we don't have the healthcare, because we have been limited in our access to things, because we have a system that is built to keep us at a certain space. We don't have access to everything that everyone else has access to. And so that creates a little bit of a problem for us as far as being able to take care of ourselves, maintain our health, and those kinds of things.
Do you think there will be real change that will take place because of this?
I don't know if there'll be real change. I cannot predict that. But what I can say is that in order for there to be real change, we have to look at the system. This is systemic racism. It's not a system that was built for us to thrive from the beginning. And so we have to be willing to look at it all the way at the root of the problem instead of saying, it's, the system is just not working. No, the system was designed to work. It is working very well. This is how it was designed to work. And so we have to be willing to accept that and then say, okay, we're willing to change it. And so I think that's going to be where the real change comes, is if people are willing to change a very broken, or not broken, a very corrupt designed system to make change happen.
You had mentioned to me you were starting a new, because I know you're a highly sought after therapist, and you had mentioned you were starting a new, I believe, in a webinar series. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so what I decided to do was I was starting to get a lot of people calling looking for services, and I cannot offer any more individual slots. So I decided, what is a way that I can meet a mass number of people and provide them with some support. And so I decided to create a webinar of 5 sessions, and I'm working with a group of therapists, and each of us are working on each session. And so we're creating this kind of template, if you will, to be able to provide it in whatever way we choose. And so I've decided to do it in 2 ways. One is more of a process group, so people who are willing to connect with one another and see one another via Zoom. And then the other one is more of a webinar, who people still want a little bit of anonymity, and they can kind of, be behind the scenes, but still get the information. And the 5 weeks are just the first 5 sessions I provide clients. So it's just a lot of psychoeducation and teaching them how to track their nervous system and what to do.
Very cool. Now, you also do consultation with other professionals. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the membership group is for trauma treatment therapists or professionals. It doesn't have to necessarily be a therapist, because I believe that trauma can be treated multiple ways. And so, it's a weekly group. We meet once a week. The first week we do a mini training. The second week we do a group consultation. The third week we do some type of self-care activity. And then the fourth week is more of a mastermind.
Oh, nice.
It's just kind of designed to help you grow in your skill set in whatever way you want to, away from the clients and more focused on the professional. And so, we meet that, and we're going to open up the doors actually at the end of this month on the 27th.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and then we'll close them down for a while and get people settled, and then we'll open back up and kind of do it that way.
Are there any parting thoughts that you want to leave people with?
I think it's just the importance of taking good care of yourself. Making sure that you are doing all that you can to prioritize your mental health, and take good care of yourself. And if there is a concern, or if there is something that is worrying you or bothering you, or something is not quite right, then don't hesitate to seek services. It's important that we take care of ourselves so that we can show up in the world in the best way possible. Reach out and get the support you need.
Absolutely. That self-care is so important. And if people wanted to get a hold of you and reach out, how would they do that?
Yeah, the best place to go is ninakeeler.com. So that's my website, and that houses my services for individuals who are looking for therapeutic services, as well as for professionals who are looking for support in growing their trauma treatment skills.
Excellent. Gosh, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast today. As I mentioned, Nina is a highly sought after trauma therapist in the Detroit metro area, and also a consultant to other trauma professional. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to her. She is a wonderful resource. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to my podcast, The Mind Wellness Guru. It's a free podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Podcast Addict, Podbean, or Apple Podcast. And I am always available as well. If you have any questions or concerns, you can get all my contact information by going to www.mindwellness.health. And of course, stay tuned. Come back and see us the next time. We will have Dr. Sarah Hirsch. She is a chiropractor and functional medicine specialist, and she is doing some very innovative work at a place called The Classroom in Berkeley. So stay tuned. She will be with us the next time. And as always, I look forward to continuing with you on this wellness journey.